Greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. A few months ago, two of my favorite people got together for a debate, and it is possibly one of the most painful things I have ever watched in my entire life, and that was JustPearlyThings, our favorite red pill girly, and Michael Knowles, our favorite DailyWire man. They got together and they had a debate about marriage, and it was 2.5 hours long. And I watched the whole thing, and as I was watching it, I was in a group chat on Patreon where I live tweet my reactions to things that I'm planning. So if you're interested in seeing my raw reactions to everything, then go check out my Patreon, patreon.com/savvycat. And just losing my mind because this is quite genuinely, I started watching it at midday and I didn't finish until 6 p.m. and I was watching it on 1.5 speed because I had to keep stopping to slam my head into my desk, to yell at the screen, and to get up and just pace in circles being like, I can't do this anymore, I can't do this anymore, I cannot do this anymore. And then afterwards I went and sat with just bees in my brain for the next 3 hours while I tried to bring myself back to earth. So I thought I would share that pain with all of you. You are so welcome. I had to suffer through it. You have to suffer through at least a shortened version of it. And although I have watched it before, these reactions are still going to be incredibly raw because they frustrate me beyond belief. So today we are watching the two worst people I know together in a room, and I find myself painfully agreeing with one of them far more than I feel comfortable doing. Money on who it's gonna be. Yeah, I hope you're all ready for what is about to be a terrible time. Let's fucking go. So to start with, Pearl is just telling us about how she got into what she's doing, how she ended up the red pill girly. Basically, she just says she moved to London and was asking men why they don't want to get married, and then interviewed 1,000 women and were like, I understand why men don't want to get married. So now I'm going to take their side and just completely shit on women all the time because fuck women.
I didn't understand why men were complaining about dating. So I ended up doing a panel show where I interviewed 1,000 women about dating and relationships. And I came to the point where I could see where the guys were coming from.
And that's how we are where we are today.
When men have children in this country, they're not legally entitled to their children. And I think it's the biggest issue that we're facing right now. Single mother homes, they lead to school shooters. You're more likely to commit crimes, drug deal. Every problem in society comes from single mother homes.
You hear that, guys? Every problem in society comes from single mother homes. The biggest issue that we are facing right now, the number one global issue that we are facing right now, is that men have a hard time getting custody over their children in divorce. That is the number one issue, and single mother homes are creating school shooters and drug dealers and criminals. All those bad things, they're coming from single mother households. They are the worst thing in the world. The worst thing you can ever do to a person is be a single mother.
What I found is that men are not getting married not because they don't want relationships, but because they fear divorce.
Source? Men aren't getting married not because they don't want to, but because they fear divorce. Okay, don't do anything divorce-worthy then. Why are they so fearful of divorce? Why do they think they're gonna get divorced? Are they going into dating knowing that they're a shit person and that their partner is gonna get sick of them and divorce them? If your reason for not getting married is that you were afraid of divorce, you're doing something wrong.
I have a documentary coming out called Why Don't Men Want to Get Married Anymore?
It's been 1 minute and I've paused this 5 times, but I'm sorry, she has a documentary coming out. Okay, so everybody be prepared for that. If I find an illegal link, maybe we can watch this documentary together and sit there and rock back and forth on the ground screaming and crying about it.
I think the first thing you need to do is switch the laws to make them more favorable and fair.
I want you all to remember this point here, what she just said. The number one problem and the number one thing we need to do, change the laws to be more fair to men. Remember that she said this. And then take a shot every time she says it again, because you will be blackout, like you will die before the end of this video, because this is quite literally the only thing she knows what to say. This is the only thing she says for the entire 2.5 hours is this. Scratched record over and over. Change the laws, change the laws, change the laws. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's carry on.
Yeah.
What evidence do we have that the mother is the best one with the children? The kids are the most likely to be abused by the mother.
That's a little unclear because, as you just acknowledged, the children are much more likely to be with the mother. Not only in the case of divorce, but also in the case of a married couple.
But why?
Daddy's at work.
But why? The way the laws are set up, it punishes men for being traditional.
When I say kids are more likely to be with their mothers, I just mean because even in a traditional family,
Right.
I, daddy, am off at work right now and mommy is home with the kids.
But so what's your point with that?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What's your point with that? How are we not getting this? You said children are more likely to be abused by their mothers. He said, sure, but that's because they're with their mothers more often. And you said, what do you mean by what? And what's the point of that? Why does that matter? Do you mean what? That very clearly matters for very obvious reasons. Using that as men are punished for being traditional men in families. That's literally the opposite of this point right now, though. I'm baffled. I'm so... Do you know what you're saying, Pearl? Do you understand? Like, Michael did just explain to you this point. When you talk to Pearl, everything just go... Like, you can see it go in one ear and out the other. Like, she does not comprehend or listen to anything anyone says ever. And she keeps doing these interviews. And I don't know why. Like, she looks stupid literally every time. I don't know why she keeps agreeing to do these.
There was a number from HHS in 2009 showed that women are much more likely to abuse or neglect their children. There's another number from last year from, I think it was the National Child Abuse and Neglect Data Set or something like that, which found that it's a little closer to equal.
That includes stepdads.
No, that's biological father.
No, it's
It is the 20. Which data set are you referring to?
Well, they've done comprehensive studies over the last 100 years.
But
so
what do you mean by they? Like, I'm referring to a very specific data set.
Okay, go ahead.
So
I'm obsessed with Michael quoting data. Like, he is quoting a source, like giving it the name, saying the study, and she's like, no. But like, they've been doing comprehensive studies, and he's like, source. And she's straight up like, carry on. Like, at least do a little bit of research before going into these. His job is political commentary. This is what he does. How are you going into this so underprepared? You can't go into things being like, they did a study this one time that said this one thing, and then not be able to say where you got that information because your information source is just like the Fresh and Fit fucking podcast.
1 out of 3 women's had an abortion. I've seen some numbers that say 1 out of 4, but the point is still the same. If 1 out of 4 men committed murder.
This is another thing Pell does. Every time she doesn't know how to carry on an argument, she goes, but like, what about abortion though? Women are evil because they get abortions. That's not what we were talking about, Pell, but sure, go off.
Even if you look at infanticide, it's almost unheard of for men to ever commit it.
there was a study came out 2017, I think, from Forensic International Science, something like that, which showed that 57% of the time in cases of killing offspring, it's the fathers who do it, not the mothers.
Again, coming in here quoting the facts, about being like, women commit infanticide more, so women should not be entitled rights to their children. He's like, no, that's literally not true. I will quote you an actual source since you're just going to say bullshit at me. I also love Pearl constantly being like, men should be entitled to 50% of the custody. And Michael being like, they should be entitled to 100% because the parents should be raising the kids together.
I don't think it's right that men are not entitled to their children. It's 50% their DNA. It's 50% their child. Why are they not entitled to 50% custody?
It's funny because Pearl tries to say that she wants traditional marriage to be a thing. That's her whole thing, is she just like doesn't think it works right now because women are horrible. But like in an ideal world, traditional marriage would make a comeback. But then she keeps referring to everything as men should have 50% custody. Men should and it's like, I thought we wanted to share. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. And I don't know if she even realizes what she's doing. I feel like Pearl doesn't even know what she's saying half the time. She is just literally just saying words that come to her mind and lets them come out of her mouth.
What percent of women do you think are marriageable?
What do you mean by marriageable?
No tattoos, no debt, not overweight, doesn't openly hate men.
That's such a hilarious list of standard. Those are the 4 requirements. The 4 requirements to make a woman marriageable. I love that. I'm obsessed with that. And I want to raise you one and ask, what percentage of men are marriageable? And I'm gonna give actual good stakes of like, views me as an equal, respects me, doesn't patronize me, listens to me, takes an interest in my interests. Like, these I feel like are really valid, actual good things to find in a partner, and also unfortunately are really hard to come by. And they're definitely not going to exist in men who have the standards of no debt, no tattoos, not overweight, and isn't a feminist. Like, the men who have those standards do not have mine. If that is a man's requirement for marriageable women, there's a reason that he's lonely, and it's because he's an asshole.
It's not the majority, Michael.
What's the number?
These are confirmed by an actuary. It's less than 5%.
Which actuary?
Not
like what study is
It's called It's a World Without Men. It's a book, and they go through the numbers that are confirmed by an act. But you know this, Michael, even in real life. You go on the Whatever podcast.
Yeah.
You go, I mean, you see Fresh and Fit Miami.
I saw that book. The first sentence of that book, there is 1 mistaken quotation and 3 grammatical errors in the first sentence.
This is so embarrassing for her. She's quoting this book and the Fresh and Fit and whatever podcast as her sources to how only 5% of women are marriageable. And the book she's fucking quoting on the first page, not even in the first page, the first sentence has 2 grammatical errors and a misquote. And you're using that as a source, pal? Come on, girl. Come on now. Embarrassing.
If we look at just overweight, 70%. You want a fat wife?
The standard just being not fat is actually quite hilarious. Being like, 70% of women are overweight. Like, you want a fat wife? How many men are overweight? Bring them into the statistic. Why does it only work one way, pal?
You're observing that it is not advisable today in 2024 to get married.
But I think objectively, if me and you sign a contract and one of us is paid to leave, you would never sign that business deal. You would never sign it.
I did, right. If you're saying that's the state of marriage now, I did get married, therefore I did sign it.
Straight up saying to a married man, if I gave you marriage papers, you wouldn't sign them because they're unfavorable to you. And he's just like, I literally did though. She's sitting here calling the Daily Wire out of touch. And being like, you're all out of touch. You aren't seeing the state of women these days. Women, the quality of women has just like gone down so hard. And he's like, the women around me are all fine. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I think the majority of women are marriageable. And she's like, no, you're so out of touch. Pell, have you considered that you're out of touch? Have you considered that like you've interviewed 1,000 women, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not very many. And the 1,000 women you are interviewing fall into a very specific sort of area. And that's the area of women who are willing to go on your show, which is not most of us.
I'm not here. I think men have had enough of women telling them what to do. I'm not telling men to do anything.
This is another thing she says a lot that fucking falls flat. Pell is not here to tell men what to do. She doesn't give men advice. She just speaks her thoughts. She's not telling men what to do. She's not offering advice. She's just saying things, and men can do with it what they want because women need to stop telling men what to do.
We agree that the numbers for Catholics, Jews, Muslim, Orthodox Jews and Muslims, divorce numbers are way lower. And you acknowledge those statistics, but then you say,
no, I don't. No, I don't.
You don't? Okay. All right.
No, because most of those include women over a certain age.
Right. You're saying the young people, it's totally different.
Time, Michael.
So
divorce rates among religion are lower than outside of religion, but it doesn't count because that includes older people. And young people don't care about religion, so they get a divorce regardless of their religion, and it doesn't matter. So none of these statistics matter because young people are different and we aren't our grandparents because we change. And why aren't we our grandparents still? Our grandparents never would have gotten divorced. My grandma did get divorced. So
I've seen a lot of stuff from the Daily Wire.
Yeah.
Say get married young, right? But I'll see guys that take you guys' advice. And sometimes, it ruins their life. The woman ruins their reputation, calls him an abuser, says all these awful things. He hasn't seen his kids in 2 years.
It's awful.
Hey, have you considered that maybe he's ruining his own life by, I don't know, being an abuser? Maybe if he wasn't an abuser, and wasn't just a bad person who mistreated his wife and or children, then the divorce wouldn't happen and his reputation wouldn't be ruined. And also, I highly doubt the reputation is actually fully ruined, because most of the time, it really isn't hurt that badly. It's all a bunch of fucking bullshit to make themselves feel better about the divorce and have people feeling sorry for them. Like, I'm sorry, but where is the sympathy for the women here? They take your advice and they get married young, and then, they get divorced, and their reputations they're dragged through the mud because these women claim they abused them, and it's just so heartbreaking. Yeah, it's heartbreaking that so many women are abused. No one's getting a divorce and claiming abuse falsely. Like, maybe a couple people are, but it's incredibly, incredibly rare. And I feel like if you are calling a majority of them lies because you would rather take the side of potential abusers, than acknowledging that most of them are real, like almost 100%, then you're a big part of the problem and you're helping these men get away with it. But also, she doesn't care. So what does it matter?
I think that the laws need to change first.
The laws need to change first. Take a drink, everyone.
You guys have been preaching marriage for a decade. Men aren't signing up. I'm saying laws need to change.
I also love, you've been preaching marriage for a decade and men just aren't signing up. I think women aren't either. Here's the thing, pal, is you keep being like, the standard of women is going down. The quality of women is going down. The quality of men isn't doing so great either. The attack on women right now is so prevalent, so scary, and it's being helped by people like you, which means that a lot of women don't want to marry men. This is not a decision being made by men. You're talking about the male loneliness epidemic. That is not something that men are choosing. It's something they're choosing because they're doing it to themselves. But that's women choosing not to take part in relationships with men who hate women. I don't know why you keep being like, men aren't signing up. Women also are not signing up. I think less women are signing up, actually. I don't think it has anything to do with the laws. I think it has everything to do with the men that you surround yourself with are shitbags who refuse to take responsibility that women don't want to marry them. So instead, they're like, the quality of women are going down. And also, I can't see my kids if we get divorced. No, it's just because no one wants to marry them. No one wants to date them. And they're just trying to find a way to make it women's fault. That's what this is, pal. It's all bullshit.
Some men are called to religious life. Some men are called to celibacy.
Right.
But the ones who are not are called to marriage because it's a natural institution.
Don't you think they should follow their purpose and God first?
That is part of their purpose.
Okay.
I love calling marriage a natural institution. I don't think marriage itself is a natural thing. It's like a legal thing. Sure, partnering with someone is natural, but the actual concept of marriage itself, that is a completely made up thing. But sure, go off, Michael. I love him sitting here and explaining that why this is part of a man's purpose and why it's what God wants for you. And Pell just being like, I think you should follow God's purpose first. And him just being like, that's marriage, though. That's what I was just saying a second ago, though.
You say men should follow their purpose and should follow God. I, of course, agree. Mm-hmm. And the natural law inclines us toward marriage. Men and women are, by our very nature, inclined toward marriage. You would disagree?
No.
You wouldn't disagree?
Well,
so there you go.
No. Well, sort of. I think men... Sorry. I think that in the current market, there are just not enough wives to go around. They're not.
And rinse, repeat. I think that men's purpose is marriage. I disagree. I think that men's purpose is marriage because that's what God says. I think so too. So you agree? No, I don't agree. I just think that there aren't enough marriageable women. You've said this already. We have already talked about this, pal. Please move on. We've had this conversation. You've literally already said it. You quoted the book that is has 3 misquotes in the first 5 seconds. Move on. Please.
Do you think men should have standards?
Yes.
Do you think it's okay for them to want a woman that's in shape? Do you think that's an okay standard?
Good. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, a girl that's religious. Would you say that's good? Okay,
necessary.
but that's not the majority. That's not the majority. So what are men supposed to do in the meantime?
What about women, though? You know? Like, do you think it's good for men to have standards? Well, not enough women are thin or religious, so what are men supposed to do? And the other way? Pal, what are women supposed to do? When all these men are out here, like, objectifying us and, like, literally thinking that we deserve to die because we don't want to date them. Like, what are we supposed to do when half the men look at us and view us as fucking objects, you know? My standards are a bit higher than religion and being in shape. Like, and even if that were true, why do my standards not matter? Why is it only his standards that matter? What am I supposed to do? I mean, date people who aren't men. That's a good solution. Speaking as if I was a heterosexual woman, what am I meant to do? Why aren't I allowed standards?
Yeah, I mean, God can forgive you, but men don't have to.
God can forgive you, but it doesn't mean men have to. Is that putting men above God? Is that what you just did there, pal? Did you just put men above God? I feel like you just put men above God, which is kind of an insane thing to do, especially when you're claiming to be a Catholic and especially when you were talking to Michael Knowles. Like, you just said that to his face.
You would agree that men in general should not date women that had OnlyFans accounts.
It's not ideal.
Okay,
I don't think it's
you can't
disqualifying.
definitively.
Michael out here surprising me a little bit here with that, honestly. Being a sex worker in the past is fine. Like, as long as you're not doing it now, then that's chill. I didn't expect that from him. I wasn't anticipating coming in here and having him be like, yeah, if you used to make OnlyFans content and upload, like, nude and, like, sex videos online, then that's fine. You still deserve to be married. You still deserve a good, happy, little traditional Christian life as long as you repent. And I know that that's, like, the base of Catholicism is that you can repent for everything, but I still didn't expect to hear him say that, like, he thinks that they deserve to be married and effectively imply that he wouldn't hold it against someone. I mean, I don't think it should matter whether it's past or present, obviously, but, you know, better than what I was expecting.
There's also, you know, on the men's side of things, men are in a little rough shape because of our modern culture too. Indulged perversions and things like that. Doesn't make them particularly marriageable either.
But why is it whenever we say something about the women, we have to say but men?
I'm gonna lose my mind, pal. I'm about to lose my mind. I'm only 17 minutes in. Why do people have to bring up men? Because you're not. That's why. Because it's relevant here. You are being like, women are degenerate. The quality of women is going down. All men deserve the best women. Women are participating in pornography. Women are sleeping around. And he's like, well, men are also doing those things. And suddenly you're like, how dare you mention men here? And it's also rich coming from Pearl because she does it a lot when people talk about, like, abuse or against women. She's like, men get abused too, did you know? And in that case, no, you shouldn't bring up men or the other gender because that is not the issue that we're talking about. We're talking about specifically things that directly involve women being impacted. You cannot be sitting here and just slandering women and not expect us to talk about men in the process because you are also talking about men. You are talking about men and women, but refusing to acknowledge anything about men. You're talking about what men deserve, but you're not mentioning, you know, like, you can't be doing that.
You wouldn't date a woman with an OnlyFans.
Well, I wouldn't date any woman now because I'm happily married.
No, but if you were single, right? You wouldn't do that.
It would be an obstacle. It would be an obstacle.
It would be such a big obstacle.
It would be an obstacle.
Do it.
I love him being like, it would be an obstacle, but I would. And she's like, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't, because it just doesn't help her point. Oh, Pearl, you need to get better at this, because I don't know how you've been doing this for years and you're still absolute trash at it, but yikes.
I interview guys that are dating a girl for 6 months. They find out she used to have an OnlyFans account. These are real things that happen.
And I talk to men who are dating women for 6 months and then find out she used to have an OnlyFans account. This is a real thing that happened. Yep. Problem? I don't understand. Who cares? Maybe? I don't quite understand the issue here. If he's insecure about someone having to have had an OnlyFans account in the past, that's something he needs to work on himself because, like, who cares?
At the very least, Pro, you would say people want to have kids, right?
I mean, if women wanted to have kids so bad, why are they killing them like crazy?
How is that relevant? How is that relevant to literally anything? Stop bringing everything back to abortion when you don't have another argument because it's not relevant to anything at all right now. Okay?
I know you say you don't want to give men advice.
I say every man, you have to decide for yourself.
But let's say the man came to you and said, Pearl, I know what you, but I don't care what you want, I demand.
These hypothetical situations.
Well,
because that's how conversations work, pal. Why do you keep coming and asking me questions? Because that's literally what you are here for. That's why. This is how conversations happen. I'm sorry that the only people you talk to are men at the Fresh and Fit podcast and people you pull off the street who have not done any prior research, but you are talking to someone who makes political commentary for a living. He does this for a living. I know supposedly somehow you do too, but like you really need to be prepared going into these things because like you don't even know how to hold a conversation. It's embarrassing.
Your options are going to be completely different than another guy's options. Every man has to decide for himself.
That wasn't the question. You can't just keep diverting questions because you aren't prepared. I don't give advice to men. I'm going to sit here and say what men should do and why I think the world is bad and what I think needs to happen and what men should do to make that happen. But I don't give advice. I don't want to tell men what to do. Okay, but let's just say hypothetically I want to ask you to tell me what to do. I want you to tell me what to do. So like... every man is different. That wasn't the question. This wasn't the question.
Women have the most choice when it comes to commitment around the age of 22. They're not choosing to get married.
Yeah, 22-year-old women don't want to get married, but 22-year-old men also don't want to get married. All the men you talk to are like 30-something-year-olds who want to marry 22-year-olds. Women at 22 aren't choosing to get married. Yeah, I don't want to marry some fucking 40-year-old right now. Thanks. Like, do I have that option? Yeah, I guess. But any 40-year-old who's showing any interest in me, gross. I don't want to associate with you, actually. I don't have any intention of getting married right now. And I especially don't want to marry someone who's 10 years older than me. Unless it's Lee Min-hyuk. And I have no interest in getting married to anyone older than me. And they're the ones who want to get married. You find me 22-year-old men who want to get married. Find me people in their early to mid 20s. Like, find me men who want to marry right now. Don't be using like older men as an example and saying, but these young women won't marry them. Tell them to marry someone their own fucking age then. Women at their age also would like to get married. The problem is that they're looking at women who are much younger than them. You are doing a very skewed view of the dating pool here, pal.
I know women that have been raised in this culture that chose to get married at 22, waited till me, I know women that did the whole, like, exactly what you're describing. Every woman has agency.
And they got married.
Yes, but there's also women that chose to go on OnlyFans.
So there are women who make the choice to get married. That's what he said. And I fucking can't do this. I can't do this. I know people who grew up and chose, like what you said, and got married. Okay, so people do get married. Yeah, but some of them choose OnlyFans. We established that already, pal. The answer to the question was yes, some people do still choose to get married. It's what you just said. Oh my God.
If a woman lies about paternity of the child and it's not found out before the age of 2, that man's on child support for life, even though that woman committed fraud.
I find this point so interesting because me personally, I think that DNA doesn't actually matter that much to whether or not you're the father. Like, I understand finding out if the kid isn't yours and you've been raising them, that you would feel betrayed by your partner because they, slept with someone else. But especially if this kid is over 2, like, you've been their father for 2 years. Do you suddenly just stop caring about them? Because I think that makes you a shitty person. And in terms of child support, because she's anti-child support, I personally do not understand, like, regardless of whether you're in that kid's life or not, I think you should still want the best life for that child. Like, that is still your kid. Me personally, if I had a kid that I couldn't see, I would still want that kid to have a good life. I would still want to, like, participate in that life how I can. I would want to give money that I had to them. If I had money to spare, I would be giving it to my child, help feed them and clothe them and educate them, because I still want what's best for them, regardless of whether I'm there or not. And if you are unwilling to pay child support, or you think that child support is unfair, then I think you're a bit of a bad person, honestly, because I think that you should want the best life for your kid, regardless of whether or not you are present in their lives.
I cannot fault men for being cautious. And some men just aren't going to get married because the laws are too favorable to women.
Drink! This is the only point she has the whole time. Some men just aren't going to get married because the laws aren't favorable to them because they have to pay child support and they have to give away half their money when they get a divorce. That's it. That is your singular issue. Is just that it's hard to get custody of your kids and divorce costs money. That's it. Like, I agree that sometimes, custody issues can be unfair. That does need a little bit of work. We do need some work in family court. I do agree with you there. But I don't think that's actually a reason why men aren't getting married. And I think you need to shut up and actually come up with something better to say. Because right now, you just look stupid.
So I do interviews of men that have been divorced. And there is a guy I interviewed, and he married a Christian woman. They have 2 children together. And what happened was one day he comes home. And when he comes home from work, the wife has filed a temporary restraining order on him. He's kicked out of his house. No trial, no evidence, no nothing. So he has to wait a year and a half to even get to see his children, even though she lied about the abuse and they figured that out in court. This man had, and I saw his court documents, text evidence that this woman was planning to do this to him. In the year, he still had to pay the mortgage on the house. He still had to pay child support in that year and a half. He hasn't seen his kids in 2 years. Michael, they live a mile from him.
Okay, and now tell me the numbers of how many times women and children get abused by their husbands and no one steps in to help. Because I promise you, it is much, much higher than than how many women are faking it. And most women are not faking abuse for funsies. Sometimes these things can be planned out and shown. I'm going to plant evidence to make it look like he's abusing me and it's not going to be real, but they're doing it purely because there is no trail left of the actual abuse. It can be incredibly hard to document abuse because abusers are clever and they make it difficult for people to prove it. And so sometimes women do fake evidence because otherwise no one's gonna fucking believe it. And okay, maybe in this case it was made up, but that is so, so rare. And I think that it is so much better to actually help and protect the women who are actually abused than to label every single victim as a liar. Because most of the time, they're not lying. 1 in 3 women are abused by a partner at some point in their life. 1 in 3. The chances of lying is very low.
I've interviewed so many men that I would not be surprised if they committed suicide in the next year because the woman has completely ruined their reputation. She's called him an abuser, completely different with his friends. His kids think he's the bad guy. He's out of money, and he has to start over at 40, 45, 50 years old.
Boo fucking who? Do you know how many men kill their wives who don't get to start over? Do you know how many? Far too many. Doesn't really happen in reverse very often, and one of those is much harder to come back from. I'm not going to be surprised if men kill themselves over these divorces because women are claiming they abuse them. Maybe they shouldn't fucking be abusers then. Just a thought. That's just a thought that I have, because victims of abuse are also very likely to attempt suicide. So, but obviously again, you don't care.
Even if it's 5% of men that this happens to. I would never, if I got on a plane and there was a 20% chance of I get to paradise and there's a 5% chance of it crashing, I'm not getting on.
Then you don't want to get married either. Not for how it's going to hurt men, but for the likelihood of you getting abused, because that's a higher percentage than the 5% that you're talking about. So you're promoting marriage, which is abusive much more than 5% of time. So
what I would say to switch things, I think men shouldn't vote for either party. Where is the mandatory DNA testing? If Biden came out tomorrow and said, hey, we're going to make divorce and family court more fair, till the right and the left start taking men seriously when it comes to their issues, I think men should bow out.
I love her just being like, until one of the political parties says that they're going to focus on men. Political parties never focus on men. Laws are never about men. We're always talking about women all the time, obviously. And until one of the political parties talks about men and says that women cannot divorce men anymore and that there should be mandatory DNA testing at birth because like 1% of babies are not being raised by the right father and they don't fix child support. I don't think men should vote ever. They shouldn't vote at all. But I don't tell men what to do though. I don't think I should tell men what to do. I don't want to tell men what to do. I think that men should do that. I strongly think that they should do that. But like, I don't want to tell men what to do. I'm just a woman. I don't have a voice or an opinion. I'm just saying words and men can do with it what they want, but I don't want to tell them what to do.
You think that you know what's right for every man? But
I think I have a relatively reliable faculty of reason and moral conscience. And so in as much as it is reliable, I can articulate the truth as I see it, which is all anyone does. It's what you're doing. It's what all people do when we speak.
Yeah, I don't think it's really our job as commentators to tell people what to do.
But that is literally your job. That's literally what you're doing, though. That's, of course, what he thinks. That's what we all think. It's like, I believe what I'm doing is the good thing and the right thing, and I want to encourage people to be good people and make the right choices. Obviously, yeah, he's going to be like, yes, I'm going to encourage people to make these choices. Like, I disagree with a lot of what he thinks. I don't think a lot of his thoughts and behaviors and things that he encourages are good. I disagree with that. But I know that he thinks he's good, and I know he views me in the same way. And I know you, Pearl, also have that. You also know what you think is good and not. And just sitting there and being like, I don't want to tell men what to do just because you constantly want male approval. Like, I just don't. Like, how is it worth it? You know? Like, I don't get how it's worth it. Having such loud opinions, but being like, but like, I don't want to tell men what to do because I want men to love me, and they're not going to love me if I'm bossy. Like, oh my God. Pearl. Fucking hell.
So it seems to me, I'm not letting women off the hook. Sometimes crazy, feminist ladies go nuts and divorce their husbands and poison, the kids against their father, and they do all sorts of terrible things. But, marriage is a union of two people.
Yeah, but Michael, why are you talking about men here? This is about women. We're not talking about both people in the marriage party. No. We're talking about specifically women. Men can do no wrong ever. Men are only hard done by. They're just being wonderful and perfect, and then women come in and accuse them of abuse. Women come in and say that they don't contribute to the household. Women come in and say all this bad, terrible things. Men have done nothing wrong, ever. A marriage is about a man and a woman, except only, really, the woman is the only one who has, does anything, ever. Which is fucking hilarious, because that in itself is an issue, isn't it? If I'm the only one who cares about this marriage, and I'm the only one who's putting any emotion or effort, then I'm not going to want to be there either. So, I love that she's just like, men are just innocent bystanders in their marriage. What do you think led them to this point? Why do you think this divorce is happening? Like, if women are accusing you of abuse or whatever, what have you done to make them do, like, clearly the marriage hasn't been happy, you know?
What percent of marriages do you think are happy after 50 years? Women pick tall, handsome, successful men, and I would imagine that they would be happier.
Source. Women pick tall, handsome, successful men. Yup. And what do men choose? And also inaccurate again. Women choose whomever and men choose whomever. We all have different standards and are attracted to different things. Please show me your sources, and do not cite me, the Fresh and Fit podcast and the Whatever podcast, because those are not sources. And nor the 1,000 women you have interviewed. None of that counts. Show me actual data, please.
I would agree that men and women are better together. If a man has children in this country, the woman is being paid to leave, you're going to have a higher percentage of women that do it,
yes,
religious or not.
Drink.
What I'm saying is that it's not really wise for men to date former sex workers.
Why not? Why not? I'm not saying it's ideal, but why not?
Because I think the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
So then you are sort of denying that people can change.
No, I'm not denying that people can change. I would say most people don't change. Like, I wouldn't say women go date a criminal.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, growing up in New York, I know some reformed criminals who are actually reformed, who are,
Yeah, but the difference is criminals actually have consequences, where women tend to not have consequences for their decisions.
You don't think?
You're just all over the place. Also, I do love here, though, criminals tend to have consequences, whereas women don't. So, is this you straight up just being like, women don't commit crimes? Men are violent, and men commit crimes. Women don't commit crimes. Their only crime is porn. And they can never make up for that. They will never, ever face consequences, and they will never be able to make up for that. Criminals, who are all men, can be reformed. They can change because they've already faced consequences for their actions. What?
A woman who goes to a university is told, hook up with every guy you can, study some...
She chooses to, not told.
She's also told, and she chooses to.
Yeah,
she's also told by the culture.
Because that's what she wants to do.
But she's also told to do it by the culture. You can't downplay that, right?
You can be told to do so. I could be told to jump off a bridge. That doesn't mean
right, I know, but you just said she's not told that, and I'm saying she very much is told that.
She's just like, if I was told to jump off a bridge, I wouldn't do it. Yeah, because you're told just now, like one time, if you were raised your entire life being told on your 16th birthday, you're going to jump off that bridge. On your 16th birthday, you're going to jump off that bridge. On your 16th birthday, you're likely going to jump off that bridge because you've been raised being told that's what you are going to do. That's what your life purpose is. Like, you do what you're told. Why do you do what you do now, pal? What changed your mind? What put you in this position? What makes you be an advocate for red pill men? Because you've been told things that have educated your worldview, and now you've decided that you believe in the red pill life. Because you were told that. That was a product of your environment. Oh my God, I can't believe this has to be explained.
Living with the consencoses of being used by men, of not being able to have a harder time getting marriage, not having kids, and
why is it that? Because my question is, why do we always say is used by men?
Why do we always say men use women for sex? Women try to have sex with men. Yep, doesn't change. That doesn't actually change the statement at all, actually. But thanks for your input, pal.
Because men
women
use women for sex.
No, but women don't use, there are women that hunt top men down and try to sleep with them.
Pick up artists,
even the way you describe it, it's like always putting it on the men.
Because men and women react differently to sex, and because men tend to pursue in sex, and women tend to be pursued. Because...
Oh no, not the top guys.
What do you mean by a top guy?
This is so funny because I love that. Although I disagree with gender roles or whatever, in the patriarchal society that we do live in, it is more typically, obviously, men do prey on women a lot more. That is something that does happen. We all know this. But I love that Pel's example is not the top men, though. Women will use the top. We're not talking about the top men. We're talking about men in general. We're talking about women in general. Like, the top men is like, what? The top 1% or whatever. Like, okay. Sure, they're totally not using women. Let's say hypothetically they're not using women, which they absolutely are, by the way. But let's say they weren't. The other 99% of men, though, where do they fall? What about them? Then they're exempt from not using women because women are using them. So are they using women, but it doesn't count because they're not the top guy?
So I don't think when women sin, it's the fault of society. I don't think it's the fault the men are just using you. I think that when women do that, it's a choice.
Sure. Do you think people can be deceived?
I think women play dumb a lot. It's like I'll interview these women on abortion.
And again, we circle back to abortion because she doesn't know what to say anymore. She always ends up here. He asks her questions and she's like, fuck. I don't know what to say. Let's circle back to abortion. I know he doesn't like abortion. He doesn't fuck with abortion, so I'm going to bring it up so then he can't deny me anymore. Relevance where?
What percent of men are even using women? It's like 80% of women are involved in hookup culture, maybe 5% of men.
Please, pal. Please, I am begging you. I am begging you to show me where you pulled that statistic from. Because that is the most bullshit number I've ever heard in my entire life. What are you talking about? Let's have a look at some numbers here, shall we? In Gen Z, men have had an average of 7.6 partners, although women are trailing behind with 2.6. On average, men have had 5 more sexual partners than women. That's a massive difference. And you want to tell me 80% of women are involved in hookup culture and only 5% of men? Also, that to me screams a lot of gay men. Because if they, on average, have 5 more sexual partners than women, they've got to be sleeping with someone, right? And then going into calling, and I mentioned this at the beginning, calling our generation the least modest. Gen X men had an average of 16 partners and women had an average of 10. Millennials, women had an average of 10.8 and men had an average of 13.4. And baby boomers, women had an average of 7.4 and men had an average of 12.9. So constantly, men have more sexual partners than women, except in New Zealand. New Zealand is one of the few places where women have a higher body count than men, but only just, and I find that quite funny. So this is bullshit, and I really want to see where these numbers are pulled from. And again, don't quote me, the Fresh and Fit podcast. Tell me how many people the men at the Fresh and Fit podcast have slept with, because I guarantee you it's a fuckload.
5 to 15% of women under 35 are on full OnlyFans, cam, or some sort of sex work.
That seems high to me.
That's what I thought too. I swear to God, that's what I thought. Until I interviewed 1,000 women. I can't even count how many sex workers I've met.
You don't think the kind of women who go on like
no, not at all.
relationship podcasts are kind of self-selecting?
No.
Don't you think the trad women just don't go on camera?
I mean, he is right here. The women who are doing these podcasts are the type of women who are doing these podcasts, you know? Like, yeah, trad wives are not doing these podcasts. It's going to be skewed. The people who you are talking to, it is going to be skewed. Your data is so skewed.
I'm not saying that men ought to, throw a stick out the window and marry the first woman it hits.
I mean, you said an ex-OnlyFans model. That's basically the equivalent.
I said that. No, I don't think so. I mean, basically,
come on, an ex-only. That's like the. I can't think of anyone. I don't think anyone's. I can't think of anyone worse for my. I don't know how you can't definitively say no to that.
I can't think of anyone worse than an ex-OnlyFans model. I can think of a ton of things worse than an ex-OnlyFans model. Like, I don't know, a murderer, a sex offender, a Republican, like there's a lot of things worse than an OnlyFans model. Like, so many things. You, for one, Pearl, much worse. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with having been an OnlyFans model. I don't think there's anything wrong with presently being one.
But how is a man responsible for women doing OnlyFans? That's a choice.
That's
what I think we should...
men are the consumers in the case of OnlyFans. They do bear some responsibility.
Well, I mean, even they have to post it before there's any consumers.
No, the reason they post is because there's a market.
Not really. They want attention.
Pearl not understanding how supply and demand works. Who is surprised? No one is making women do OnlyFans. They are choosing to post it themselves. Yeah, but they wouldn't if no one was going to pay for it. Yeah, but they would post it anyway. They're posting it before they get paid. Yeah, but they're only posting it because they know people are going to look at it. Yeah, exactly. Pearl, honey, sweetie. Men are the consumers here. Women are doing sex work because men are going to consume it. The reason there are more women in sex work than men is because men are the main consumers. And that's also why a lot of men in sex work are doing gay sex work, because men are the main consumers of pornography. So there's a lot more women who do it. If there were going to be a lot more women who were interested in consuming this content, there would be more men who do it. And I have no idea how you're sitting here and being no, but it's still women's responsibility. It's their fault. Men have done nothing wrong. Why is it wrong for a woman to do it and not for a man to consume it? The double standard is astounding to me. There has to be equal responsibility here.
If you grow up in a really bad community where you're taught all sorts of bad things, where you're introduced to drugs and porn and gluttony and just all this nasty stuff early on, are you more likely to fall into bad vices and habits and temptations?
You're more likely, but you're still responsible for your decision. There are men that grow up in bad environments that choose to be millionaires, and there's others that choose to be drug dealers.
So true, Pal. There are men who grow up in bad environments who choose to be millionaires. I'm actually have decided right now that I am choosing to be a millionaire. This is going to be my last video ever because I have made the decision that I am going to be a millionaire. And I'm going to do that right now because that is a choice that I can make. It's not impacted by my environment or any other choices that I've made. It's just by the choice I make right now, which is that I want to be a millionaire. Nothing else in my life impacts that decision at all, obviously. I do love this whole idea of trying to say that your environment literally has no impact on the decisions you make, or it might have an impact on the decision you make, but you shouldn't be able to take any of that responsibility off of you. And I find it really interesting that Michael is calling that a very conservative viewpoint, and liberals don't agree with that at all. And I mean, I'm not a liberal, but it's interesting how much they equate the left to liberalism. And I find it really interesting that he seems to think that we're potentially on opposite ends here, where he's environments shape us, that the people who disagree with me think that environments don't shape us. But I strongly believe environments do shape us. And I don't know anyone who disagrees with that. So I'm interested by this viewpoint.
Do you think the environment's responsible for the choices you make?
No, that's not what I said. I said I'm a moral agent and I'm responsible for my
Okay, so you
actions.
are responsible.
But my free will, my ability to exercise my will, is conditioned by the laws and the customs and the community in which I live, which is why it's not merely an individual question, but it's also a political question for human beings who are the political animal.
Well, that just sounds like a lot of words to me.
He articulated that very well, and he tried multiple times. I don't understand what you're not getting, pal. If you are going to come into these situations and try to have a conversation that has depth, you have to understand how to have a conversation that has depth and like listen and take things in. Because like, this isn't a hard concept to grasp, especially when you are supposedly in a position where like having these conversations is your job. You should be able to understand this concept. It's really not hard to understand and to listen and to like meet in the middle and have a conversation. You can't just sit here and be stubborn being like, I don't get it. I don't like it. No, that's not how conversations work. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind.
How does one make a decision?
How does one, you weigh the pros and the cons and you make a decision?
How does one know the pros and the cons?
I mean, it depends what decision, but
but just in general, how does one know pros? How does one know cons?
Let's take abortion. Can I use an example? Is that allowed?
Please.
Back to abortion. I should have added this as a shot, honestly. How every time she wants him to agree with her again, she just goes back to abortion to be like, I gotta get him back on my side. It's fucking so funny.
No, Google, the top thing when it's you put in side effects of abortion are depression, anxiety, you know.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think you're responsible for your choice.
But
what? Relevance. Where? Pearl, you are allowed to admit that you're wrong. You are allowed to listen and be like, oh wow, you're making a good point. You don't have to just turn around and be like, but abortion is bad. And also I think that you're responsible for your own decisions. That wasn't the question. That wasn't the question. Oh my God, this is so hard to watch. It also just kind of feels like it's an adult talking to a child. It doesn't even feel like in a condescending way either. And that's part of what makes it so painful too, is it's like it feels like he's legitimately trying to have like a respectful adult conversation, but he's having to talk to her like a child because she is just refusing to like listen and acknowledge and comprehend anything that's being said. And so it's created this weird power dynamic between them that was not meant to be there. Like he looks clever and like he knows what he's talking about, which is so frustrating for me because he is the one at the Daily Wire who I'm usually like, he literally is just chatting shit. What is he talking about? He looks like a babbling fucking buffoon. And here, I'm like, he's talking really well. And she, oh my God, is so hard to watch. And it's making me so upset how much I am like on his side here. It's frustrating.
What I am saying, the reason why I'm saying that your social environment and your education has some bearing on how you can exercise your free will is that when people are fed a bunch of BS as knowledge, then when your knowledge base that you're basing your free action on is compromised and false, then you are going to will based on a lie, and your very ability to act in a rational way is going to be compromised by your experience in your environment.
But you are still responsible for the decisions that you make. And that's my point.
That fucking Michael has kept his cool so well this whole time. And just that moment there where she's like, but let me just repeat myself for the fourth time after not listening to a single word you said, even though you articulated yourself really well. And he just goes, he's lasted longer than me. I have needed to yell several times before this point. If I was not watching this on like 2x speed, I would be literally suffering so bad right now. He explained that so well too. And you can just see it just like go in one ear, out the other. He's saying this makes sense. It shouldn't be hard to comprehend. Like, it isn't hard to comprehend. He's now spent 10 minutes explaining this to her, and she didn't even add anything. She didn't input anything. This is not a conversation or a debate. This is her just being like a rock. Like, no. Women make decision. Bad. Marriage law. Bad. abortion, bad, nothing else. That's all she's capable of saying. Why is she here? Why does she keep doing these? I don't understand.
But you can also get knowledge through life experience and like watching people that are older.
But you don't
than
experience life alone. You experience life in community, which is my point.
Yeah. Well, my point, I'm not trying to overcomplicate this, is just that women are
responsible. I think we're undercomplicating it, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, you're just undercomplicating the hell out of it, pal. Like, you have stripped life down to nothing. And this is not how life is. You're overcomplicating it. Nope, life is complicated. So it is going to be complicated. You are undercomplicating it, and it's making it not make any sense.
No, I think that women were responsible for the choices that we make. And I'm just not really into, I'm really not into it. I'm just not into it. Yeah, go ahead.
What about men? Are men responsible for the choices they make? Like, I want to hear your opinion on men. Who's responsible for the choices men make? Because I feel for some reason you're going to blame it on women as well. And then that makes you a hypocrite. You can't just keep repeating yourself, pal. This is not how a conversation works. You cannot call this a debate if you're just sitting here and saying the same thing over and over again and refusing to actually talk about things.
When they're told that for their entire lives, it's not that they don't bear any moral responsibility, but it is greatly reduced compared to someone who has proper knowledge and the exercise of their will.
Oh, see, I've been on the other side of this.
What's the other side?
No, the other side is, it doesn't matter.
Do that, pal. Oh, his face, too. That's not how this works. That's not how this works at all. Yes, it does. You cannot bring something up and then refuse to mention it because you literally don't have anything. You can't just make shit up. Oh, yeah, I've heard the other argument before. I've talked to people. I've seen the numbers. Oh, what are they? Don't worry about it. You've already lost this debate countless times over. Can't even call it a debate, really. But this one just nailed the coffin. Like, it nailed it shut. You can't come back from that. Oh, I've been on the other side. What's that? Don't worry about it, Michael. It's not important. It literally is. That's literally the reason you're here. Pal.
I don't think coddling women helps us.
I don't think addressing social reality.
I think it's just a bunch of excuses.
We have literally been having this conversation for the past 20 minutes, pal. Like, he's already explained it. You cannot come in and argue this because you've tried and nothing you've said has made sense, and he has explained it to you perfectly clearly, and you've not taken any of it on board, and you're like, yeah, but I disagree though. But like, offer me actual information and not just bullshit from like 3 women you interviewed one time.
The thing that has changed is the social circumstances. And so the place you're placing the blame, even you, as you describe it, is in those changing laws and customs and norms, not on the nature of women.
No, I still think you're responsible, but I don't think the laws are fair to men.
That's not what he said!
If I can legally kill someone, should I?
It depends the circumstance.
But in general.
What's in general? I mean, if he's like threatening your family, perhaps. If he's just, you don't like the cut of his jib, probably
Yeah,
not.
but you know what I'm asking, okay?
I don't know what you're asking. Pearl, I promise I do not know what you're asking.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying is, what are you saying, though? Like, you can't just say something that doesn't make sense and then be like, that's what I'm saying. No one knows what you're saying, pal. No one has a clue. You can't just say random shit and expect people to understand and then refuse to explain it because you also don't understand.
I'm really just confused at what your point is. So are women responsible for their sin or they're not responsible?
Why did you ask this? You've already asked this. We've been talking about this for forever. I want to get through this video! Let it end! We've been dancing in this circle for a long time. What do you mean? I'm confused. So what do you think women are? You asked that already? And then you asked it again? He's already explained it twice. Okay? Stop. Just, if you don't get it, carry on. Please. I beg you.
And the fact, Pearl, that you keep backing away from using our reason to come to certain judgments about how men ought to behave and about good and bad and right and wrong seems to me a denial of what is basically the premise of any conversation, which is that we can know something about reality and come to conclusions about it.
I mean, he came for a real good there. I love getting to the point where they've been talking for like 2 hours at this point. And he's just like, you don't know how to have a fucking conversation, girl. We came here today to have a conversation. And you don't know how to do that. You refuse to talk to me and meet me in the middle and have actual conversations about reality and to try to figure shit out. And it's infuriating. Yeah, I'm pretty infuriated too. You lasted longer than I did. Michael, you've lasted longer than I would have. I would have gotten up and left, to be honest. I'm not cut out for these things. Michael invited me on his show one time to have a chat, and I obviously said no. I have absolutely no interest in ever talking to this man. I have no interest in exposing myself to his audience at all. And also, like, I'm just not cut out for this environment. And I know I'm not cut out for this environment. I do a lot of my videos somewhat, like, on the spot, but I have like terrible anxiety and like social anxiety, and I'm not good around like new people, and I feel like the pressure of a situation like this would make me say stupid shit. I wouldn't be able to use my brain completely, and I'm aware of that. I know that I am more articulate when I'm on my own speaking to a camera, where I can like bumble over my words and not feel anxious about it because I can go and edit that out, because I fuck up my words a lot. And it's harder to do that when you're on a show with someone who you know is going to deliberately try to make you look bad. But like, my point being that like, I am aware that I would not be very good in a situation like this. So I wouldn't put myself in a situation like this. I know what a conversation is meant to look like, and I know what I need to do in order to prepare myself for one of these. And I know that that's not something I think that I would be very comfortable doing. Pearl seems to think she's great at these. She keeps agreeing to do them, and she has no idea how to do it. And she's been doing them for years. How does she still not know how to hold a conversation? How does she still think she's doing well in these? I'm baffled by it. I don't get it. I'm glad Michael called her out for being like, you don't know how to have a conversation, and it's incredibly frustrating. But she's still going to carry on doing it, and she probably thinks she did a banger job in this. So, you know, who knows?
So I think facts don't care about the way you feel about them.
What do you think a fact is?
I think that,
what do you think a fact is?
That women are paid to leave marriages.
That was really not the question. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. I don't want to do this anymore, guys.
In Pearl World, which we were living in Pearl World earlier, then what would men do if they begged you for advice?
I would say go talk to a preacher, your pastor, a preacher.
I love staring at him being like, what does he want me to say? What will get me back in his good books? Go talk to your preacher. That's what he'd want me to say. And then I don't have to offer advice. He can get advice from a man. Nailed it.
Again, I'm not in the business of telling men what to do. And that's
You've
just
mentioned
not,
that.
You know.
But I think you kind of are.
You've literally spent your entire career is telling men what to do, pal. Stop bullshitting, okay? Just shut the fuck up. Stop it. Your entire career is telling men what to do. Or what you think they should do, which is the same thing.
You guys have been preaching marriage for a decade.
Yep.
And the rates of marriage have still been going down. Why? Because the cost is too high and the quality of women is too low.
Or the quality of men is too low. I vote that one. You see, Pell, we can have opposing views here. Is it 100% that the quality of men is too low? No. But if you're claiming that it's 100% that the quality of women is too low, then I'm claiming that it's all men's fault. And I would argue that it's much more men's fault than it is women's. So.
How do you fix it?
Well,
you increase the quality of the women. You say, stop being fat. That's the number one.
Always comes back to that. That's the only thing she can think is wrong with women. Stop being fat. And then marriage rates will go up. If that were the case, then every single slim woman would be married and every single fat woman wouldn't be. But neither of those things are true. So, like, literally shut up. It's not a funny joke. Like, you're trying to get on his good side, but, like, he's already said that he doesn't think that that's that important. It's not working. You're not on anyone's good side here, pal.
There should be mandatory DNA testing at birth.
No.
I don't know why you, okay.
Because it's calling my wife a whore to do that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
The woman feels icky for a little bit. Fine, maybe the man feels icky.
Certainly he would. You're calling his wife a whore and him a cuckold.
It prevents men from being put on child support and raising kids that aren't theirs. Fine, you can opt out.
So it's not mandatory.
But
it's voluntary. But there already is voluntary. Yes.
I think it would be better if it was mandatory. I think that's a better.
So then the men can opt out.
Oh my gosh! What are you?
What a mess that entire interaction was. Oh my God. This is one of my favorite interactions ever. I saw this on TikTok, which is actually what made me watch this video in the first place. I was like, I can't believe this is a thing that happened. I have to watch it. I'm just so obsessed. I'm so obsessed with being like, there should be mandatory DNA testing at birth because that's what men want. He's like, fuck no. I absolutely do not want that. That is so disrespectful, implying that my partner is sleeping around. I don't think my partner has done that. I trust my partner. I trust my wife. She is faithful to me. We have a monogamous relationship and I trust her. And me making our child take a DNA test is disrespectful to her and I don't want to disrespect her. And she's like, whoa. But like so many men are not the fathers of their children. And so I think it should be mandatory, even though you don't want to do it. And Pearl, I promise you, a majority of men don't want to do it. A large majority of men don't want to do it. If men do feel insecure and think that they want to DNA test their kid, then the relationship that they're in is rocky and they maybe shouldn't be having a child together anyway. And like that is a choice that you can already make. If that's something you want to do, you can already do that. That is available to you. There is no need for it to be mandatory because yeah, that's just icky for everyone. Most people do not want that. There is a very small group of men who want that. And they just happen to be the small group of men you associate yourself with because you associate yourself with gross men. My favorite thing about this conversation is that literally 3 seconds later, she says that she's not contradicting herself. He's like, you keep contradicting yourself. And she's like, no, I don't. I don't know what you're talking about. When have I ever contradicted myself?
I think you're trying to railroad me off of the real issues.
I'm not. I'm trying to figure out what you're
but I want
articulating, and you're contradicting yourself.
I'm not contradicting myself.
You just
so funny. That's so funny. I think you're trying to railroad me off the real issues. No, he's just trying to move the conversation along, and you don't want to.
Yeah, I think any country in the world at any time in history, it's basically good to get married.
So if they make a policy that, I'm trying to think of something crazy. I mean, even the policies that are today, it's like, you know, that if, so really any policy. Wait, what? What?
Oh, that was painful to watch. I'm kind of obsessed with Michael just letting her sit in silence. I love that silence went on so long. It had to be interrupted by the producer. Pearl, come on. You have to have something ready to go. If this is a point you want to bring up, you have to have something ready to go. And I mean, I obviously disagree with Michael heavily here. I think this is the thing with this whole debate. Overall, I disagree heavily with both of them are anti-divorce in general. And Michael being like, I think divorce should be illegal no matter what, under no circumstances. I give that a big, heavy disagree. I think you should be able to divorce for any number of reasons. And I think that it's quite terrifying and astounding to me that anyone could think that like divorce laws should be like there should be no divorce ever under any circumstances at all. Like that's quite horrifying.
You guys are the ones pushing men into a feminist institution, which marriage today is.
Calling marriage a feminist institution is the most insane thing I have ever heard. Pearl, what the fuck? Considering marriage started as like a trade deal, it's like a purchase. The reason your father walks you down the aisle is because he's giving you away. You're no longer my property. You're now this man's property. Like, marriage has always been about money and power. It's never been a feminist institution, and it definitely still is not a feminist institution. I think you keep forgetting that men also can file for divorce. They maybe don't. They file for divorce less because men are typically the ones who are mistreating women. Typically, men are benefiting from marriage more than women are. That's why. If they were better husbands, divorce would happen less. It's really easy to like do this maths, you know?
My question is, what should men do in the meantime?
They ought to go to church, work hard, put away the porn, don't do like drugs, date in a way that is virtuous, and then get married and have children and be fruitful and multiply.
His worldview sounds so sad. Just like everyone conform, be the same, do the same, everyone is exactly the same. And I guess that's what he was saying is the difference between liberalism and conservatism. And I find it interesting where the different lines are and what crosses and what doesn't cross. I'm all for individuality, but I also think that environment makes a massive impact on you. I think that it's quite horrifying that he just thinks everyone's environment should be exactly the same and everyone should be exactly the same and live exactly the same and follow the same rules. Like, I just think of all those like TV shows, and especially like for some reason that one episode of like Fairly Odd Parents where everything was gray and all the houses looked the same and all the food was just like gray sludge. That's all I can think of. It's like, that's so sad. Individuality is so important and good. Without it, life would be so boring.
I think until the quality of the wives go up and the risk goes down.
How's the quality going to go up?
Told you step one, the treadmill.
Take a drink, fat joke. I know that I didn't establish that at the beginning, but I'm establishing it now a little bit late in the game. You got to take 5 drinks to make up for it now.
I mean, I think women, it's better if we save our virginities for marriage.
Women save your virginity for marriage, not men. So that means men, you can all have gay sex, but no engaging in heterosex ever, please, because that is ruining your, like, women can't be married otherwise. So gay sex only. Thank you, everyone.
And I think advocating for divorce reform would be a good step.
I totally agree. And I really like that last point because it acknowledges that our behavior is conditioned by our circumstances. And,
no, I think you're responsible.
I can't keep doing this. He's literally just pointed out, you are saying that your environment is responsible for your decisions and that's why you need to change the law to make things better. No, you're responsible for your decisions. Then literally nothing you're saying is making sense, pal. You cannot have both of these things. You cannot have this both ways. It is one or the other, okay? That is what he's been trying to tell you for this entire 2.5 hours. You are giving me a headache.
I think that every guy has to decide for himself.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
And that comes from either God or your purpose as a man.
And your purpose as a man is?
Different for every man.
Yeah, I guess that's the liberal part. It's kind of you do you.
You keep saying to do what you want. I keep saying you should do what God wants. No. I'm saying you should still do what God wants. You should follow your purpose, which is what... She just thinks that liberal means feminist, and it's kind of painful to watch that happen, actually. I love that you can tell that my energy has depleted so much. This has drained everything from me. This video has like literally wrung me dry. I feel nothing. The bees are back. My brain is a beehive. I am full of bees, and I am losing my mind.
Okay, so is it better to get married or better not to get married?
Depends on the guy, for the...
There you go.
How do we keep going in circles? How do we just keep going around and around and around and around and around and around in circles? It's infuriating.
I'll give one prescription, actually.
Okay.
I'll give one. Just one.
All right.
If you get married, get a prenup.
No, you can't get a prenup because it invalidates the sacrament.
I love her saying this as a joke to try to lighten the mood. And he's like, whoa. No. And she immediately is like, fuck, well, that backfired. Why did you think that would go well? That's what I want to know. After this entire conversation, this entire 2.5 hours, where he's effectively been like, I don't want to do anything that would insult my wife. I don't think divorce should happen ever. You think that he's going to be pro-prenup. This just really shows that nothing has entered her brain at all.
Sorry, I'm just shocked. Like, you hear the stories I'm telling you. You know the state of marriage
I'm articulating
today.
the Catholic view of marriage.
You know the state of women today, and men still can't get prenups.
You are shocked to discover that I'm a Catholic.
How is she not getting this? I'm obsessed, though, with the fact that she, throughout this whole thing, has been like, I'm Catholic too. And he's like, this is a Catholic value. Why are you shocked that I'm Catholic? You cannot be sitting here this whole time saying people should go back to the church, people should be Catholic and follow that directly and be like, but I think that prenups are good and everyone should get a prenup. How did you think he was going to agree with you on this, pal?
Do you want to get married?
I'm a woman.
You're a woman.
Yeah.
Therefore, you do want to get married.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, there's not risk as much for women.
There's not risk as much as a woman. I mean, there might not be as much of a risk of them filing for a divorce, but there's much higher risk of abuse. And I would say that is much worse, me personally. But of course, you don't want to acknowledge that fact, do you? Men
divorce for like good reasons, where women divorce for the dumbest reasons.
I don't think
abuse, infidelity, where women, it's like, I wasn't happy anymore. Yeah. So
it's okay for men to file for divorce over abuse, but it's a lie when women do it.
I think we could come together and, make the laws more fair for men.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the solution that we would agree on.
Drink. That was her final and only point throughout this entire thing, wasn't it? What did we learn today? Nothing. Nothing. That's the end of this interview. I have been here for hours. I am in pain. My back hurts so bad from sitting here. I'm exhausted and my brain is full of bees. I hate this video. I hope that you hated it just as much as I did. I hate how much I agreed with Michael Knowles during that. The thing is that I didn't agree with what he was saying. I don't agree with his values, but I understood his explanations. You know what I mean? And it was just so frustrating to sit there and watch Pearl not comprehend anything, and I don't know why she agreed to do this. I don't know why she keeps agreeing to do this. I don't understand anything. Anyway, I'm never gonna put myself through that hell ever again. Why did I decide to do this? I don't know. Yeah, so basically, what did we learn? Just that marriage laws need to be more fair to men, and our environment shapes us as people. But according to Pearl, yes, it does, but that doesn't matter. And no, it actually doesn't. But yes, it does. And mandatory DNA testing should happen, but it doesn't have to be mandatory as long as it's mandatory. And nothing makes sense anymore. Okay? Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that nightmare. I should have more to say, but I literally my brain is full of bees. So I don't have very much to say at the end of this. I think I kind of said everything that I needed to say. And I hope that you had a good time. I hope that you are all in equal amounts of pain as I am after that. I hope that you were all storming around your room, whacking your heads into walls as I was the first time I watched this video. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I upload every few days and I would love to see you again soon. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons whose names are up on the screen right now. I appreciate you so much. And a huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons. Michaela, Natasha, Lady Nutbar, Mr. Noodle, Radsack, Knitting Menace, Samuel, Chris, Elias, Danielle, Eldo, Jessica, Ikazel, Mandy, Josh, and Bobby. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone else would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/SavvyCat or click the top link in the description. For as little as £1 a month, you get my videos a day early, and then at £3 and up, you get things such as outtakes, bonus mini podcasts, live streams, vlogs, bracelets, and more. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah. When you close your eyes.